Are you ready for down-to-earth reporting and brutal honesty? The Joe Rossano Show is next. Welcome to the Joe Rossano Show. Hi, I am Joe Rossano, where our mission is to lay out the issues in a down-to-earth fashion using brutal honesty. So as of right now and forevermore, stop watching fake news, stop reading BS Facebook posts, and strictly get all of your information going forward right here on the Joe Rossano Show. To the outset segment. Is it our fault? What is our fault? Oh, I don't know. Is it that modern society is breeding large numbers of quasi-narcissists who can't tolerate any questioning of their delusion-born self-image? Professor Howard Schwartz, who taught classes in social and behavioral science at Oakland University, said the term snowflake stems from what he calls the rise of the pristine self. This is a self that is touched by nothing but love. The problem is that nobody is touched by nothing but love. And so if the person has this as an expectation, if they have built their sense of themselves around this premise, the inevitable appearance of the something other than love blows this structure apart. The outset believes the oversensitivity of individuals today, including political correctness, all stem from this idea that people operating under the notion of the pristine self only serves to view you as evil because you are showing them something other than love. The outset further believes, and in fact blames parents and capitulating campus administrators as contributing to this phenomenon. People now experience the entire world as a form of bullying. The parent protects the children from real dangers, but also fantasy dangers. These precious snowflakes are the children of political correctness. Their parents and schools lead them to believe that the world is perfectly moralistic. They don't live in the real world. It's a fantasy, and for reasons of brutal honesty, it's dangerous. I'm going to do an endorsement, and then we'll be right back so I can blame and call some of you out for this in the raw and brutal segment. Don't go away. Have you been arrested for DWI or other criminal charges, injured in an accident, facing bankruptcy or divorce? Then call Tom Wintz at the Isaac Law Firm. Considered one of the best lawyers in Maryland, with free initial legal consultation, Tom will put together a plan to get the best possible outcome in your case. You can contact the Isaac Law Firm at 443-233-6877. Welcome to the raw and brutal segment. My dear friends and fellow Americans, when researching this story, I realized that us Generation Xers raised these snowflakes. If you were born between 1960 and 1980 in the United States, now between the ages of 37 and 57 years old, we Generation Xers laid the political, intellectual, social, creative, and personal ground upon which the millennials today walk, talk, and text. So those between the ages of, let's say, 42 and 54 that have children in high school and college, yep, it's your fault. My parents showed me nothing but love and understanding when I was at home. However, when I left the house, my parents prepared me for the perils of the real world, advised me that there were some bad element out there. and how to handle myself if someone tries to rob me, entice me to snort coke, rob a convenience store, and how to combat a bully. I regret to say that parents in my beloved Generation X failed miserably at this. Do you know what a lot of Generation X therapists tell parents nowadays to do if their child misbehaves? Create an atmosphere where things that may cause your child to misbehave are no longer present. Do you know who my therapist was who my therapist was? Is that correct even?
Yeah.
The Outset believes the oversensitivity of individuals today, including political correctness, all stem from this idea that people operating under the notion of the pristine self only serves to view you as evil because you are showing them something other than love. The Outset further believes, and in fact blames parents and capitulating campus administrators as contributing to this phenomenon. People now experience the entire world as a form of bullying. The parent protects the children from real dangers, but also fantasy dangers. These precious snowflakes are the children of political correctness. Their parents and schools lead them to believe that the world is perfectly moralistic. They don't live in the real world. It's a fantasy, and for reasons of brutal honesty, it's dangerous. I'm going to do an endorsement, and then we'll be right back so I can blame and call some of you out for this in the Raw and Brutal segment. Don't go away. Welcome to the Raw and Brutal segment. My dear friends and fellow Americans, when researching this story, I realized that us Generation Xers raised these snowflakes. If you were born between 1960 and 1980 in the United States, now between the ages of 37 and 57 years old, we Generation Xers laid the political, intellectual, social, creative, and personal ground upon which the millennials today walk, talk, and text. So those between the ages of, let's say, 42 and 54 that have children in high school and college, yep, it's your fault. My parents showed me nothing but love and understanding when I was at home. However, when I left the house, my parents prepared me for the perils of the real world, advised me that there were some bad element out there, and how to handle myself if someone tries to rob me, entice me to snort coke, rob a convenience store, and how to combat a bully. I regret to say that parents in my beloved Generation X failed miserably at this. Do you know what a lot of Generation X therapists tell parents nowadays to do if their child misbehaves? Create an atmosphere where things that may cause your child to misbehave are no longer present. Do you know who my therapists were in 1983? My parents were my therapist. And do you want me to tell you what they did when I misbehaved? They slapped me in the ass with a wooden spoon. And guess what? Eureka! I didn't misbehave anymore. You see, in my house, a timeout was what a quarterback called in the fourth quarter of a football game. Not a little chair I was supposed to sit on when little Joey was a bad boy. Bottom line, my fellow Generation Xers, what you are doing is putting your little angels in some really bad predicaments with these coloring books, safe spaces, and trauma dogs. You have successfully raised your kid to get his or her ass beat, taken advantage of, and harmed in the most disgusting manners. I mean, how many times have we watched YouTube videos where kids are beating the crap out of their fellow students and teachers? Because the parents raise these disrespectful snowflakes to believe there are no consequences for their actions and instead blame the teachers. Shame on you. I will do yet another endorsement, and then I will be right back for the summary segment to try to talk some sense into some of you snowflake blowers. Rossano's Rant of the Week, where I will answer some of my critics and some of your mail. Stay tuned. Looney's Pub, Maryland, and Joe Rossano's undisputed favorite hangout in Bel Air, Canton, College Park, and Maple Lawn. To find a location nearest you, check them out on the web at www.looneyspubmd.com. To the summary segment. You know, it wasn't until I began to research this story and consider this story when I realized it was my generation, our generation, who did this. It's our fault. Is it our fault? It's not mine. Because for reasons of full disclosure, the down-to-earth, brutal honesty stuff, my child is not a snowflake. I mean, really. I've got to be honest. I was a throwback parent. Now, never spanked my child or anything like that. Honestly, my child never gave me reason to. My child isn't a snowflake. Not a protester. Doesn't try to silence anyone. Doesn't say he's not my president. None of that stuff. Joe Rossano did not raise a snowflake. To those of you who did, how could you? I mean, you had to know better than that. I mean, these kids nowadays think they own the place. They want free college. They want free health care. I mean, again, is it our fault? Yes, it's your fault. So what I would do, if I were you, is hope to God that your grandchildren aren't like this. Because what happens, folks, and what is going to happen is there are no safe spaces out there. When there's a safe space on a college campus and our children leave that safe space, then what? Then what are they going to do? The kids at Berkeley who burn things down, God forbid if a conservative wants to make a speech, are going to do what in the real world? Nothing. They're in trouble then. And that is definitely your fault. So, again, what I would do is pray my grandchildren aren't like that. Rossano's rant of the week. I want to answer some of my critics because let me tell you what's happened since I've started doing this show. People do come up to me on the street, strangers, and they'll say something like, "You JoeRossano, Joe, right?" And I'll say, yeah, how you doing? Hey, man, I watch your show. Dude, that's like my favorite show. I mean, I really like your show, man. I had someone come up to me when I was out and say that they buy a 6-pack of beer, drink beer, and watch my show. I never really thought of it that way. I never really thought. I'm always thinking when I started this show, when I do these shows, and nobody watches this show. It's just me in front of a camera. I watch it later during editing, and that's the end of it, that nobody really pays much of attention. I was really happy to see, not only do a lot of people watch the show, but everyone who has come up to me has had nothing but positive things to say. Hey, I really like your show, etc. However, there are people who say things, okay, when I'm not around. Say things to friends of mine, etc. Joe's controversial. I'll dare him say that, and that goes with the territory. I mean, anyone who puts themselves out there in the public arena, the Sean Hannitys, the Bill O'Reillys, the Mickey Coachellas, and when I interviewed Mickey, one of the things that he said was during his comedy routines, that sometimes people take exception to what he says, and you can't please everyone. But what I will say is this, okay? To those who have said, I didn't like Joe's show, it was controversial, some of the things that he said was offended, actually flattered me most, because some of the things that they objected to were not but 12 to 14 minutes into my show. So how did you even know that I said that if you didn't watch at least half my show? So thank you for that. Sometimes people say things that are not complimentary. Here's what I want. Listen to me very, very carefully, folks. Come on the Joe Rossano Show. If you think what I say is controversial, if you don't agree with what I say, come on in. Let's debate. If you're a far left liberal and you're a zealot and you support Black Lives Matter and you think the police are out to get you, come on in. If you think that there is institutional racism everywhere you go, come on in. Let's debate this issue. Anytime you're ready, Joe Rossano is not afraid. Are you afraid? there's my open invitation to anyone who disagrees with what I say here or thinks that what I say is offensive. Come on in. Come on in. None of it bothers me. I love it because that means you're watching. And to those of you who have sent emails and have said really nice things, sent me private messages, hey, I love the show, etc., thank you so very much. Now, there's a few things I promised you here. I will interview a stripper. There's no doubt about that. You know, I could get at least 400 more perverts to watch my freaking show. And I am going to interview Corey Garrison from martial law. Love Corey Garrison. You know, he'll draw the crowd because of all the people that love him. And I can tell you right now, tell you something about Corey Garrison. When he does the Pledge of Allegiance at his shows, he doesn't care if you never come to one of his shows again. He'll do his show to an audience of 0. He'll sing in his backyard as long as he can be the American patriot and do his shows with the Pledge of Allegiance. To your mail, Dear Joe, having F the Police as a title I thought was way out of line. Tom, Owings Mills. Tom, it was a metaphor, sir. F the Police was a joke, okay? F the Police meaning, for me, was the anti-F the Police. Because, you know, when folks kneel for the national anthem, it's because of racism and because they think they are targeted by police. What none of them know or consider to know that if you're born African American, there is a 0.45% chance that you will start from being born to the time you die of being shot by a cop. Now, as far as what happens after that, within the own community, I'm going to cover on another episode. Rants, raves, questions, email me at joe@joerossano.com. You want to see past episodes, JoeRossano.com. That's JoeRossano.com. Do me a favor, email me your questions. I'll read them right here on the air. I've only read one question per episode this season because I kind of do this rant thing. Check me out on Facebook, facebook.com/JoeRossano, and on Twitter @RealJoeRossano. Once again, here at the Joe Rossano Show, we're down to earth. We are brutally honest. God bless you, my dear friends and fellow Americans, and we'll see you next time.